Hans Holbein was born in 1497 or 98 in present-day Germany. He was a painter, a draftsman, and designer, renowned for his precise rendering of his drawings and the compelling realism of his portraits. Most notable, the Tudor nobles of Henry VIII's England. In this video, I'll be transforming Holbein's self-portraits to see how the famous artist might have looked in real life, as well as see what his deal was. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Here on MortalFaces, I take historic portraits to see how individuals we read about might have looked in real life, and I also untangle some family trees. Lots more on my channel. Subscribe for more historical recreations, and let me know in the comments who you want to see in upcoming videos. Hans was born into a family of important artists. His father, Hans Holbein the Younger, was an established artist already, and together with his uncle Sigmund, the two were renowned for their conservative examples of late Gothic paintings in Germany. One of his brothers, Ambrosius, also became a painter as well, but apparently died in 1519 before he reached maturity. Hans began independent work in Basel, Switzerland, painting murals, stained glass windows, illustrations, and even some portraits, and then he married the widow of a tanner. This was all when he was beginning his career in his early 20s. It was now that he painted one of the most prolific scholars during the Renaissance, Erasmus. With the commission of Erasmus, it made him an international painter, and he sought commissions in France and England. So he left for England for the first time for 2 years in 1526 to 28. Erasmus gave him a letter of introduction to Sir Thomas More, who was a few years shy of when he would enter his most powerful position as Lord Chancellor to the King. So this was a very good commission, as he painted More's most recognizable portrait and also the portrait of his family. He then finished some commissions for courtiers and went back to Switzerland. Protestantism, which had been introduced into Basel as early as 1522, grew considerably in strength and importance. By 1532, severe iconoclastic riots and strict censorship of the press swept over the city, in the face of what, for the moment at least, amounted to a freezing of the arts. Hans left Basel again for England. Only 34, it was now that he would achieve his most remarkable success. In 1532, Henry VIII was preparing to repudiate Catherine of Aragon and marry Anne Boleyn in defiance of the Pope. Amongst those who opposed Henry's actions was Holbein's former host and patron Sir Thomas More, who resigned as Lord Chancellor the same year. The artist found favor instead with the radical new power circles of the Boleyn family and Thomas Cromwell. Thomas Cromwell became the king's secretary in 1534, controlling all aspects of government, including artistic propaganda. More was then executed the following year. From this, he began to get commissions from many members of Henry VIII's court, including his wives. Some drawings were said to be attributed as Anne Boleyn by Holbein, but that's debatable, and any finished portraits Hans painted of Anne were said to be destroyed when she was beheaded. He painted Jane Seymour, Henry's third wife, and after Seymour's death, Hans painted Christina of Denmark during negotiations for her prospective marriage to the king. The likeliness met with Henry's approval. However, Christina declined the offer of matrimony, citing a desire to retain her head. Hans painted Anne of Cleves, which Henry famously cited as being too flattering before he saw her, and said his face fell when he saw her for real. By 1536, Holbein was employed as the king's painter on an annual salary of £30, which, by the way, was not the highest paying artist on the royal payroll. Another painter was paid £62, which was considered a big paycheck. But it was this position that Hans painted this, and this, and this, and he drew these. After Anne of Cleves' real-life disappointment with Henry, Thomas Cromwell, who set up the meeting, fell out of favor. Hans was his patron, so Cromwell's sudden arrest and execution no doubt caused a gap in his career. There are no records that Holbein got any blame for over-flattering Anne, and all the records point that Cromwell got the blame for exaggerating her beauty. 1540, his career was slowly maturing, though still the king's painter. Apart from official routine duties, He did private commissions with rich merchants and people vying for power. Basically, he became the it artist, where anyone who's anyone needed to have a painting done by him. As far as his marriage went, it wasn't the most romantic of ones. Since 1532, he was apart from his wife and children, who lived in Switzerland. And it is thought this woman, Magdalena Offenberg from Darmstadt, Madonna, was his mistress. Anywho, whatever the case, it's likely Holbein always supported his wife and children because when she died after him in 1549, she was well off and owned many of his fine clothes. On the other hand, she did sell his portrait of her before his death. And then Hans died in 1543, around 45 or 46 from plague or infection in England. It seemed to be quite sudden as there wasn't time to even get a lawyer. If you want to see more recreations, check out the video links in the description where I have transformations from King Henry to Marie Antoinette. Subscribe for more recreations. Each of your subscriptions does help this channel grow. It allows me to continue making more content for you. Let me know in the comments who you want to see next. I do make a list of all your suggestions, and I will see you in the next one.